18 exclusively accesses documents from 2023 which reveal how the Noida Fire Department in 2026 is also to be blamed for Yuvraj Mehta's death. Noida Fire Department Chief Pradeep Chaubey is yet to respond to the tragedy. Rajasthan government led by Chief Minister Bhajan Lal Sharma has decided to introduce a new law to prevent the migration of people belonging to a particular community from communally sensitive areas. The International Cricket Council (ICC) on Wednesday confirmed that there would be no changes to the original schedule of the men's T20 World Cup and Bangladesh have to play their Group C matches in India. If not, they will be replaced.
Mr. President, this is Chandra Shrikant from India. Can you give us an update on the India-US trade deal?
First of all, I have great respect for your Prime Minister. He's a fantastic man and friend of mine, and we're going to have a good deal.
He spoke to your channel and he said very clearly, Modi is a great man. I respect him tremendously, a fantastic man. He's a friend of mine and we'll have a great deal.
You know, though it was just 2-3 sentences, what he said was significant. So perhaps we are closer to a deal than ever before. But clearly he had very good things to say about Prime Minister Modi.
Now, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, US President Donald Trump delivered a combative speech justifying tariffs. In a sharp attack on Europe, Trump said that the continent was not heading in the right direction and urged EU leaders to learn from the administration. He reiterated his push for the US to acquire Greenland, calling it a vast, undefeated territory of strategic importance between America, Russia and China. Though he also said that force would not be used. Today, he said, this was earlier, that in the meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, he had discussed the security framework on Greenland. This after European lawmakers suspended the approval of the trade deal the EU and US agreed to in July, and hence he won't be imposing the tariff slated for the 1st of Feb. And in an exclusive response to money control, President Donald Trump praised Prime Minister as a great friend and said that a good deal with India will be finalized soon.
Mr. President, this is Chandra Shrikant from India. Can you give us an update on the India-US trade deal?
First of all, I have great respect for your Prime Minister. He's a fantastic man and friend of mine, and we're going to have a good deal. Thank you. First of all, I have great respect for your Prime Minister. He's a fantastic man and friend of mine, and we're going to have a good deal. Thank you.
All right, and while some channels make do with the fake Trump, Network 18 makes the real Donald Trump answer.
This is significant and, it was very unexpected, but we had to take our shot. So we were waiting with the other foreign press and, he was just walking by. So we just took our shot and luckily he responded. I think, though it was just 2-3 sentences, what he said was significant. He said, look, I have tremendous respect for your Prime Minister. He's a fantastic man and a friend of mine. We are going to have a good deal. Now, this is important because this comes just 2 weeks after, remarks by Howard Lutnick went viral, where he said the trade deal is stalled because Modi did not pick up the phone and speak to Trump. So the fact that Trump is saying that we're going to have a good deal will certainly calm the markets. It will reassure investors because sectors like textiles, engineering goods, gems and jewelry, all of them have been hit hard by peak tariffs. So perhaps we are closer to a deal than ever before. But clearly, he had very good things to say about Prime Minister Modi. Essentially, he started at 2:30 and he went on and on and on, as you were watching, right? He covered everything from the Fed chairman to Venezuela to Greenland to Denmark to Emmanuel Macron. And, there was visible exhaustion in the room because he overshot his limit by at least 15 minutes. and then there was a fireside. So I was just walking around the Congress Center to figure out, where all the foreign press is stationed. Because, in previous interactions, I've noticed that President Trump is pretty open to taking questions from the press. So I thought, why not, just take my shot? And luckily, there was no other Indian journalist there. It was just a crush of foreign press, countries from China, Norway. So I just sort of hustled my way into a corner. So we were told that when president exits, so the Norwegian journalist told me that typically when the president exits the main hall of the Congress Center, he will go up this grand staircase, that you see, because he likes a shot of himself on top of the grand staircase. So three of us positioned ourselves right at the corner of that grand staircase. And I knew that I would just have 5 seconds. So I had just one question to ask. And I ensured that I said from India so that, he stopped because it was a different press. Because as soon as he entered the room, there was a crush of reporters. Everyone went on Greenland, NATO, EU. So, it was all the European press. So just when he came to the balustrade, just as he was climbing the staircase, I just said, Mr. President from India. So then he just stopped and I asked him, can you give us an update on the Indo-US trade deal? Because, that's the one question. We don't care about what's happening with Greenland and Denmark and Iran and so on. As far as India-US is concerned, it is the trade deal.
And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction. The places where you come from can do much better by following what we're doing, because certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. Here in Europe, we've seen the fate that the radical left tried to impose on America. They tried very hard. Germany now generates 22% less electricity than it did in 2017. And it's not the current chancellor's fault. He's solving the problem. He's going to do a great job. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America.
All right, so that was Donald Trump at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he delivered a combative speech justifying tariffs. He's spoken about Greenland. He's spoken about the fact that Europe is not headed in the right direction. For more on this, we have Siddhant Mishra live with us. Siddhant, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. I want to begin by asking you, what would you say were some of the key highlights? Of course, we're talking about Greenland. We're talking about Europe not going in the right direction. It was a rather combative speech, but then again, we didn't expect much different.
Well, that's right. In fact, yesterday's speech by President Trump was very, very significant. In fact, he made 2 points, 2 very important points, perhaps a clarification from his side that there is going to be no military intervention in Greenland. But at the same time, he has been critical of the way European countries have been functioning all throughout, from making windmills, wind farms, switching to the other forms of energy. Perhaps he directly accused the European countries, empowering China by doing so. In fact, he also said that it is a stronger US means a stronger NATO. US has done a lot for NATO, but got nothing in return. All I'm asking is a piece of ice. We are going to build a golden iron dome in Greenland, perhaps to stop the missile coming from Russia and China. Will make Arctic more safe, etc., etc. So it was on the expected lines, but one thing President Trump made clear that he's not going to do military intervention in Greenland. Perhaps that was a big satisfaction for the European countries. And second, after his speech, he met Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, and perhaps after which he came up with a post saying that he will not be imposing the tariffs which he announced on the European countries for standing with Greenland. So these are the two key takeaways from President Trump's visit to Davos. One, that there's going to be no military action in Greenland, and second, that the tariff which United States imposed on the European countries for standing with Greenland stands suspended. And also, there's a discussion regarding a framework on the issue of Greenland. Now, we don't have specifics about that, but definitely it looks like that Greenland, the issue of Greenland, is going in the direction of diplomacy.
Right, Siddhant, stay on with us. Of course, there was a lot that needs to be unpacked here. Trump's Davos diatribe is what we're looking at here. In true Trump fashion, his speech was replete with attacks and digs. Let's just take you through some of the main highlights. Europe is headed in the wrong direction. That's what he says, and he is trying to make sure that Europe goes good, is what he said. Europe has fallen for Green New Scam. Attack number 3 here. How stupid were we to give Greenland back? And then he goes on to say only America can save Greenland. Denmark is ungrateful and in fact is not in a position to protect Greenland. That's another one of his claims. And the US does a lot for NATO, gets back very little. So this is also to justify his weaponization of tariffs. NATO is unfair to us. We pay 100% of NATO, and then going on to attack them and saying, asking for Greenland, which was ours. So, of course, here, as you can see, Donald Trump continues to reiterate the same things that we've been hearing for quite some time now. He continues to say how NATO members are not pulling their weight, how United States is the only country in the position to save Greenland, and how they are at this point being ungrateful, and perhaps it was stupidity that led for the United States to give Greenland back. Now, Siddhant, let me just come back to you on that. He has really upped the rhetoric here, hasn't he?
Well, that's right. In fact, his speech was taking place at World Economic Forum after, the speeches by Prime Minister Mark Carney, President Macron, and they all were critical of U.S. tariffs, U.S. policies, etc. Some say that it's the start of new colonialism, etc., etc. All those things were said for the United States. So definitely, all eyes were on President Trump's speech yesterday. What do he has to say on what the Canadian Prime Minister said or French President said? For Canadian Prime Minister, his message was that if Canada is alive today, it is because of the United States. For President Macron, he said that how if U.S. imposes more tariffs on the pharmaceutical imports, perhaps that will break the market of France, things like that. So what we are looking at right now is that the only bridge between President Trump and the European countries is the General Secretary of NATO, Mark Rutte. Perhaps he is definitely trying his best to navigate in these times, and perhaps this is the reason that yesterday he met President Trump, and in fact there was a very encouraging post coming from President Trump that there's going to be the framework being decided. He will also not be imposing the tariff on the additional tariffs on the European countries, etc., etc. So all eyes are going to be on on President Trump's engagements today in Davos. In fact, there's also going to be the Peace of Board meeting taking place on the sidelines. The world leaders will be meeting President Trump. Steve Witkoff will be meeting President Putin today. So lot lined up for today. And perhaps we would get a better clarity on President Trump's plan for Greenland and how he is going to navigate United States relations with the European world.
Right, absolutely. And of course, looking at all of those attacks, there are big questions that remain unanswered, and we're looking at these. Is this the most acrimonious speech by the US president in history? Will this address further dismantle NATO and disrupt Europe's peace? Question number 3 here. Will Europe be forced to surrender to the wishes of Donald Trump? Is Trump threatening the use of military to annex Greenland? His speech obviously has offered some clues there. Is this the most abrasive foreign policy of the United States in its history? All questions that we have been asking under Trump 2.0, because we've seen how he's upped the ante here. He said that Greenland needs to be saved, and perhaps the United States is the only country in the position to save Greenland. When it comes to the tariffs, he's justified yet again how the weaponization of tariffs is necessary at this point, and has been able to secure deals for the United States which are favorable to them. So he has also said that Europe is headed in the wrong direction. What we are looking at is some cracks which are emerging in that relationship. Europe has fallen for a Green New scam. He also then admitted that perhaps it was stupidity to give Greenland back, but the question perhaps then would be, was it theirs to keep? Only America can save Greenland. Again, a question that is likely to see a lot of backlash and reactions also. We'll get to the details on that. And then he goes on to say, in true Trump fashion, Denmark is ungrateful and cannot protect Greenland.
President Donald Trump says he has, quote, formed the framework of a future deal on Greenland after meeting with the NATO chief Mark Rutte in Davos, Switzerland.
Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you've said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
How long would the deal be, Mr. President?
Infinite.
Trump also said new tariffs are no longer needed on European nations that opposed his ambitions. Earlier, the president ruled out using the military to acquire Greenland. During his speech, Trump took aim at Switzerland, the host country of the World Economic Forum. He warned Canada to be grateful to the U.S. and questioned NATO's commitment to defend the U.S.
The United States is treated very unfairly by NATO. I want to tell you that. And when you think about it, nobody can dispute it. We give so much and we get so little in return.
Trump also slammed Denmark as ungrateful for refusing to relinquish control of Greenland, contending that the nation owed the U.S. for defending it during World War II. Repeatedly, the president also named Iceland when it appeared he meant to refer to Greenland.
I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, last time.
In his clearest statement yet, President Donald Trump ruled out using the military to acquire control of Greenland.
I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't